All right, welcome. We will, hang on. Okay, we'll call the meeting of the Point of the Mountain State Land Authority Board to order. My name is Jordan Tesher. I'm the co-chair of the board. We're going to excuse the other co-chair, Larry Snow, who's traveling today. We're excited to have everyone here. Today is April 16th, 2024. And I'll just say this is an exciting meeting that we have today. Things are continuing to progress, accelerating as we move forward. We've got a number of great folks lined up to report back and some action that we need to take as a board. So we'll get right into it. As the point is a public project, we believe we have a responsibility to ensure that this project reflects the values of the public and provides broad public benefits. And so we seek public comment. We value public comment. In fact, we've received over 16,000 responses from Utah residents sharing their priorities and ideas, and their feedback has guided our planning. So as we always do in these board meetings, we're going to start with any public comment. Any members of the public who are interested in speaking to the board can come forward to the microphone here. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. If anyone online would like to speak, they can go ahead and raise their hand now, and we'll call them then. So we have one person in the room, it looks like. If you'll go ahead and introduce yourself and any organization you might represent, and then go ahead and share your comments.
Thank you. My name is Lisa Clark Price, Senior VP, Statue of Responsibility Foundation. I'm happy to be here today to share a few words and hopefully answer a few questions about the Statue of Responsibility. The option to bring the Statue of Responsibility to Utah happened so fast that it left many with curiosity, questions, and wonder. We have been on the front row of the public input, and we have learned firsthand how helpful it is to have some good answers to the questions that are coming from some of the new to the project citizens, those who have not had access to what it is and why it may be finding a home here in Utah. It has been our experience that once we can explain a few of the main concepts and answer a few key questions, most have become very supportive. First, I'd like to address the main topics that have come up. Number one, we are privately funded, no public funds. Number two, some people just don't like the sculpture. They want it to be more stylized, benign, and more open to self-interpretation. In other words, more arbitrary. If this was just a piece of artwork, it would be enough for it to be more stylized, more benign, and open to more self-interpretation, more arbitrary. But it is not just a piece of art. It is not just a monument. It represents a movement that is not open to self-interpretation, a movement that is very clear in its intention to support the idea that liberty does not stand alone. Liberty is not free. Liberty does not just happen. Liberty cannot be sustained without effort. That effort looks like responsibility. Without responsibility, we do as Viktor Frankl feared. We dwindle into arbitrariness. I speak for myself, and I speak strongly and clearly that I intend to do all in my power to not leave my grandchildren and their grandchildren in a world full of arbitrariness. It's not just a monument, it's a movement. It's not just about a feeling you might feel when you look upon it. It must be deeper. It must stand for something that causes us to actually take action. In response to the question, why not spend the money to feed the homeless? Well, there is value in giving a man a fish so he can eat for a day. There might be greater value in teaching a man to fish so he can eat for a lifetime. The Statue of Responsibility will offer an interactive opportunity to inspire the public to learn and be a part of solving some of those critical issues as well. Number four, it's been mentioned, it is so big it will dwarf everything in the valley, including our beautiful mountains. I would like to point out that the images they are referring to are our architectural renderings created by FFKR. Those renderings were created with the intent of focusing on the Statue of Responsibility. That focus has been augmented and exaggerated with purpose and intention. In jest, I would point out that the surrounding mountains stand 11,335 feet, 10,627 feet, and 11,749 feet. I don't think they are worried about the competition. As a side note, the stained glass images representing the flora and fauna are a placeholder the final glass imagery is not completed. The Statue of Responsibility will stand 305 feet tall, just as the Statue of Liberty, for a reason. The Statue of Responsibility Foundation, as well as the Point Partners, are committed to being very thoughtful in the placement and the effect the monument, as well as any other high-rise buildings, will have on the surrounding community. I would hope to stand on the side of history that has the potential to say, at this particular time in our story, we took a stand, we made a difference. Yes, we built an iconic monument, but more importantly, a movement that led to conversations, critical conversations about liberty and responsibility. They must go hand in hand in order for freedom to truly endure. Our forefathers did what it took to create this beautiful country and the liberty that we have here in America. Maintaining that liberty is not going to just happen. It is going to take action. It is going to take responsibility. And yes, some days it's going to take thick skin. Luckily, we are Americans. It is born in us to believe that we can do hard things. It is in our nature to be a beacon of light to the world. We believe that each and every one of us can make a difference. We only fail if we don't try. Let's do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments and clarity. We'll remind the public that we are continuing to review the application for the Statute of Responsibility. We'll have more opportunity for public comment, and we'll be getting a lot more information as we move forward on the project. So thank you for that clarity. I'm not seeing anyone else in the room. Is there anyone online? All right, we'll go ahead and close our public comment period and move to the next item on our agenda, which is considering the approval of the minutes from the March board meeting. Representative Stenquist.
I'll make a motion that we approve those minutes.
Thank you. So the motion is to approve the minutes for the March 19th, 2024 board meeting. Any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, I'll place the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Rule that passes. All right, we're on to item number 4. We'll invite up Don Willey, who will report on the status of the Point's finances. We appreciate our finance committee, which is had April Cooper and Jim Russell on there. They meet monthly with our staff and provide guidance on our budget and finances. Don, our Director of Operations now, will provide a brief report on the financials.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Tusher. Just want to review this quickly with you, and then we also do have a matter that needs to be voted on by the board, just a small adjustment to our budget. At this point in our budget year, we should be at about 75% of our budget utilized. So as we go through on the right-hand column, you'll see the percentages. We are doing very well as we have through this year. There are a few areas that we are burning a little bit high on our budget. Again, as I've reported in the past, these are primarily due to either upfront costs that are one-time for the entirety of the fiscal year, or we've just accumulated additional costs early in the year. Things like our in-state travel expenses were high during the peak of our development agreement negotiations last fall, and others like our memberships and dues with our partner organizations. Again, one-time costs. Other than that, we are looking really good. As Alan reported in our last meeting, we're hiring an additional position which we had budgeted for in this fiscal year and haven't realized, so our personnel expenses are well under budget. There are a couple areas that we do want to propose some adjustments, and this was in consultation with our finance committee, just minor adjustments. So we took on some additional direct expenditures that were previously direct costs with one of our contracted parties. Those expenses have been brought in-house. We have been able to reduce those by leveraging our tax-exempt status. And so we're actually realizing a cost savings to the Point of the Mountain State Land Authority overall. This adjustment would be moving $5,000 out of the professional and technical services budget line and dividing that between budgets line 6473, 6500, and 6595, as is noted on here. Again, these expenses weren't planned for in the initial budget that we had, that the board had approved. But we've been able to realize a cost savings. And so just a minor shift from one budget line to the other, no increase in the overall budget for the land authority. Maybe I'll ask April if she has any additional comments towards that.
April, go ahead.
No, I don't. That's great. Just like Dawn explained, it's just a couple of the technology items were being outsourced before. That's why it was under professional services. And now, they're being done in-house. So it makes sense to move down to that money to those data processing line items. Can I go ahead and make a motion?
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the move of $5,000 of the budget out of 6137 line item and to spread it amongst the line items 6473, 6500, and 6595 per the spreadsheet that Dawn has presented to us today.
Is there a second?
Second,
All right.
Mayor Walker.
Thank you. It's been motioned and seconded. I'll restate the motion. The motion is to move $5,000 from line 6137 and then to reappropriate it to line 6473, 6500, 6595, as noted in the March 24 budget report that was included in the packet. Is there any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and place the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Aye.
I'll rule that passes unanimously. Is there any other discussion to the budget? Seeing none, we'll thank Dawn for that great report and move on to the next item of our agenda, which is item number 5, amendment to the board meeting schedule. So last year, we moved our board meetings from the second to the third Tuesday of each month in response to a legislative decision to hold its interim leadership meetings on the second Tuesday. The legislature has released its calendar for the upcoming year, and it's now created it's now scheduled leadership meetings for the morning of the third Tuesday of the month, which creates a conflict with our board meetings. So I'm going to turn some time over to Alan to discuss this, and then we can facilitate a discussion on a new board meeting time. Go ahead, Alan.
Well, I'm not sure there's a lot to add, but we do have a conflict now with the third Tuesday of the month and don't want to create challenges for some of our board members and want to make sure that people can attend, and not just on the board, but those outside of the organization. So I want to look at potential new dates for this board meeting, probably starting in May, and wondered if we could go back to where we were a year ago and hold these board meetings on the second Tuesday, same time, 9 to 11. And I understand that may not be able to commit now. If you've got any input on potential conflicts with that date, would appreciate it. If we need to, go to a doodle poll offline and find another time, we can do that. But wanted to at least initially see if we could use the time period that we had been using for the last couple of years. So any input on the second Tuesday of the month from 9 to 11? Same time, same place.
You looking for a motion to set the time?
Yes, that'd be helpful. Or we can.
So moved.
And if I can just clarify that, I believe in May, the legislature is still meeting on the second Tuesday, so we'd probably want to start this in June. So we next month continue to meet on the third Tuesday, but then starting in June, meet on the second Tuesday from 9 to 11. So
My
it's like-
motion is to meet one more time on the second Tuesday, and then going forward, meet on the third. Or I'm sorry, meet on the third Tuesday one more time, and then on the second Tuesday going forward.
I believe there was a second from April, right? Did you say? Yeah. All right, any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, I'll place the motion. All those in favor of moving, starting in June, these meetings to the second Tuesday of the month, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Move that, or rule that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're now on the sixth item of our agenda, the prison chapel designation on the National Register of Historic Places. So as you're aware, the board has decided to preserve the chapel by the wayside, which served inmates at the Draper Prison. I'm looking here for Chris Merritt. Is Chris here or is Chris online? Let's go ahead and go to the next item on our agenda, and we'll see if Chris is able to join. We may need to move this if he's not able to be here. So we'll go to item 7 on the agenda, which is the proposal for educational facilities and programs at the Point. So for many months, we have been working cooperatively with the Canyon School District to assess the need for schools at the Point. And during these discussions, we've considered ways to innovate education, which seems appropriate as this is, are they? Well, we're continuing to look at ways to innovate in schools at the Point. So part of that is working closely with members of the Canyon School District, as that would be the school district that will be servicing areas within the Point. So we have invited the superintendent, Dr. Rick Robbins. He also doesn't look to be here at this point. So looks like they're looking for the building. So they should be here shortly. Maybe we can move on. I know that Patrick is here, right? And so let's move to item 8, and then we'll see if we can get back to items 6 and 7. So I'll invite Patrick to come up. And this is item 8, report on project development and tenant attraction. So our development team, the Point Partners, have been working on several fronts to move the project forward, including advancing infrastructure, refining phase 1 plans, pursuing tenants, and building our team. And we wanted to give them a chance to come and give an update on where they're at and what progress has been made. So I'll turn time over to Patrick Gilligan of the Lincoln Property Company to provide an update and introduce new team members, including Brandon Fugel. So the time is yours, Patrick.
Thank you, Chair. 1 second here. I'm just getting this shared.
We threw a little bit of a curveball at you, so
No,
thanks
you're
for-
fine. It's ready to go. Let's see. Screen. Great. So again, appreciate the time this morning. Great to see y'all. Just wanted to give you sort of an update since we last got together, just on sort of concept development and sort of where we are today, as well as sort of what we're seeking for engagement efforts, both internally, as well as some announcements, some critical partnerships that we've developed over the last several months. So, speaking on behalf of the TPP, just want to sort of go through kind of what we've been up to. So several key areas of focus, both partner and consultant onboarding, design and engineering progression, public finance framework, and then a leasing and marketing campaign, which we're gearing up to launch. So we're excited to sort of announce some strategic partnerships here. On the marketing and leasing front, we're very, very excited and enthusiastic to be working with Mr. Fugel over here with Colliers. It's been a great relationship. Brandon brings a ton to the table and really just been a fabulous ambassador for Utah as well as the project. So we're excited to get him in the ring a bit and starting to land some good prospects with us. We've also brought in Lincoln Property Company's national retail team, who sits out of Dallas and has some great relationships on the national front, again, with the goal of recruiting and attracting key national tenants to the Point. And also onboarded a more regional and local group with Mountain West to serve on our retail team. So again, much more focused on a great local relationship here, which has obviously been a part of our program and our scope since day one, was making sure that we've got a good balance of both local and national tenants, and we're creating just interesting moments and opportunities for all businesses in Utah. On the design side, so as you all know, we've been working with Arcadis, formerly CRTKL. We've also onboarded Kimley Horn for traffic transportation. Really excited to announce Rios, who came on for our landscape architect. We went through pretty substantial vetting process with several of the largest and most prominent landscape architecture firms in the United States. And really made them sort of pitch us on their vision for the project. And we ended up with Rios just because they really brought a different lens. If you're not familiar with Rios, I recommend you look them up. They do a lot of landscape and also built environment architecture, but they really had a creative value proposition to us. I think they're doing something that in our minds was balancing the authenticity of Utah, which we've always wanted to be part of this project, and telling a good story. And we'll get into some renderings and concepts and further in the slide deck. But also just a very creative and something different, right? Which is what we're looking for. And we really want this to be a great attraction for the state and the community, and we think they'll do a great job at that. We brought on HKS, who is both a national and also has a local office here in Utah. Great office and life science architects, so they're helping us with a few of the buildings in the first phase of the development. And then obviously Kittleson Associates as well. And then you all know on the advisory side, we working with Piper Sandler, Gilmore Bell, H&LA, and then Ramble Environmental Services. So, continue to build out the team of consultants and advisors, and these are all great companies that we've had the privilege and honor to work with. A quick update on sort of our commercial development concepts. So, you all are very familiar with Phase 1 and the Promenade. 2 sites which we've sort of earmarked today to go out more broadly into the leasing community and also for tenant engagement have been NR6 and H5B, obviously located within Phase 1 and sort of this Phase 1A concept as we call it. You can see some renderings here of sort of concepts. This is H5B down here. That is really meant to be a purpose-built life science building, which we think obviously has a great synergy to what is going on with Convergence Hall. So again, that'd be about a 75,000 foot building over parking and retail. And then NR6 is more of a traditional office building, Class A, mid-rise product, big floor plates, over parking, ground floor retail, and that's about, be anywhere between 150 to 250,000 feet, depending on sort of the users that we're interacting with. So, very excited. We really wanted to sort of push architecture a bit to being something that's a little bit different than what we've seen in Utah, but also really working to establish, characteristics that we find in the Utah market and landscape. So trying to bring some of those great storytelling narratives into the built environment, which has always been a goal since day one. So just some good precedent imagery where we drew inspiration from and sort of guidance as we were working with HKS on those plans. Some better shots. Again, that's the office building. I was wrong. It's actually 225,000 to 350,000 feet. So bigger is better. And then here's our, life science candidate as well, which would be directly across from Convergence Hall from the Promenade. That can be 75,000 feet of office, over 29,000 feet of retail, or ground floor active use. Going down to public realm concepts. So again, this was obviously part of all the work we've done from the onset, working with the framework plan, and then also developing this more into a landscape architecture program. So we all know sort of the exercises we've done before to sort of establish scale and size of the promenade and the priority zone. Our task from Rios, again, just some action shots of working sessions, which there have been many of, was again, taking what's been done to date and then sort of applying a fresh look and some ideas, drawing inspiration from some of the goals that we set out both internally and I think collectively as a group in regards to building something and designing something that will be a destination and it also is authentically Utah. We thought that was extremely important and challenged the team to sort of live by those standards. So, that breaks down in our minds into diverse experiences, a pedestrian first sort of orientation of that promenade, and obviously something uniquely Utah, and balancing and sort of converging all those things together to come up with what has been sort of our preliminary ideation here, which you can see, again, focusing on some of these sketching and work group sessions of how we wanted to sort of create this focal point of the point, which would be, again, really, creating a major destination, not too dissimilar from other projects we've drawn inspiration from, especially Santana Row, if you will. We really wanted to sort of use Utah's landscape to be precedent in this design charrette. So, looking at, again, the flora, obviously in the region, looking at the seasonality, making sure that, again, as you work through the seasons in Utah, there's a diversity of landscape and plantings that will really sort of help, I think, again, tell the Utah story from a landscape perspective, going through summer, fall, and winter. So we have sort of two interesting moments here. One's called the Aspen Grove, which is will be on the, call it, this will be right southeast of our life science building along the promenade. So this really supposed to be kind of centered around, food service and dining opportunities here. Go into what we call the Crevice Garden, again, more a tribute to sort of southern Utah and some of the, rock formations, et cetera, that are there. I'll go back up to our plans a bit. So basically, the goal is sort of, as you sort of move through these different sections of the promenade, you have these different moments of design, right? So you kind of are getting into these different places that feel very interesting. So it doesn't feel very homogeneous as you sort of work through the promenade and sort of what we think, obviously is the central focal point of the project. So again, that sort of was our hope, is that you can meander through here and find interesting moments. You can learn about Utah. You can learn about different plantings and species. You can learn about, again, just all the different geographical and geological moments that happen in the state. So really kind of trying to tell a story as you meander through this project was our goal. And we think if we're successful here, it should be something really interesting, and again, serve as a destination for guests, visitors, and tenants. With that, coming up, obviously a big event in late May is ICSC, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with, one of the largest kind of retail programs in the country. Lincoln has a pretty well-sized booth there, as does Colliers, as does Mountain West. So we're going to really hope to have some great collateral being launched and having some good, meaningful meetings with prospective tenants and potential partners at that. So that's been our sort of big exercise, getting ready for that in the next 4 weeks to be out there. And with that, if there's any questions, happy to answer them, but I will happily turn it over to Brandon with Colliers.
It is an honor to be with you today, and appreciate the privilege of joining with the development team to advance the office component specifically of this landmark project. We see this as not only the center of gravity for Utah, but for the entire Intermountain region, and will be a project that will receive national attention and acclaim. And our marketing and leasing strategy will be equal to the task and the charge that we've been given to create that kind of momentum. We are keenly aware of the challenges in today's market. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that we have over 20% vacancy in the office market currently, negative absorption, arguably the most challenging conditions I've witnessed in my over 30 years of leasing and selling office buildings. That being said, this project is a long-term legacy project that will transcend cycles and market conditions to some degree. And I believe that the state has an opportunity to compete on not just a local and a regional level, but on a national and international stage for large corporate occupiers and the right type of employment and job creation that will propel Utah to the next level. Smart growth is going to help Utah continue to maintain its position as the #1 state in the country, and also, I think, position for the right type of jobs and opportunities for the next generations. The point is going to be a key part of that strategy and that success story that will continue for the state, and we are thrilled to be a part of that vision. I've had the privilege of leasing millions of square feet that surround the subject property, keenly aware of all the submarket dynamics. Colliers is the leading commercial real estate firm in the Intermountain region. Right now, we have 4 offices in Utah. And what really differentiates us is we're the only firm that has a full-service office in what many people refer to as Silicon Slopes in Utah County. But we span the entire state. In addition to that, we are the fastest growing commercial real estate firm in the world. Of the big 3 global players, we're growing faster than anyone, and we have 500 offices in 66 countries with 18,000 professionals, and currently represent large corporate occupiers globally, including Adobe, eBay, BAE Systems, Allstate Insurance, Charles Schwab, a host of others. We'll be leveraging our global platform to drive activity and interest to this project and to help us position for success long term. Again, it's an honor to be with you, and we stand here as a resource and a sounding board and a powerful ally to ensure the success of this project for not only years, but decades to come.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Patrick, for that presentation. And Brandon, welcome to the team. We're thrilled to have you. We're excited for the challenges that are ahead of us, and know that you're up to the task and will be a very critical component of our success. So thanks for being here, and thanks for your efforts in this generational project. Let me open it up to the board. Are there any comments or questions from board members? Director Starks.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to congratulate Brandon Fugel. Brandon's a great partner. He really represents the best of Utah, and I think we're lucky to have him. Many of you know that we are kind of taking a new approach in the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity to corporate recruitment. We're continuing to work with EDC Utah, but we're also augmenting our staff so that we can do some additional focused corporate recruitment. So I spoke with Don Willie yesterday and just wanted to make it known that our office is really excited to partner with The Point and with TPP and with Brandon to kind of link arms and go recruit some of the best of the best. So we're excited to be able to attract some world-class tenants and are fully committed to doing so. And that's just the remark that I wanted to make. We're all in and excited about the future of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Mayor Ramsey.
Hi, thank you. Hey, I also just wanted to, first of all, welcome Brandon to the team. We are grateful to have you as part of this project and look forward to working with you. And thank Patrick and his team for the great work they've done. There's a lot of impressive growth with this development team and with the partners that are being brought on board to make this happen. I appreciated this presentation and I appreciate the progress. So just thank you so much for the great work happening. I'm excited about the direction we're going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Senator Stevenson.
There we go. Are we on? Yeah, thank you. I would just second the last several comments. I've had opportunity. I know Brandon from, I don't know, previous experiences, and but a very capable individual. I think we've got a great team here, and this is going to move very quickly.
Thank you, Senator. Anyone else?
I just want to say thank you for the kind comments. It's humbling to be part of this project. And I will say that my success and our firm's success is the result of the public-private partnerships and cooperation that we see that uniquely separates Utah from the rest of the country. With me, you're not just getting me, but my CEO, Lou Kramer, who is so engaged on every level, not just in Utah, but nationwide, and is the current chair of World Trade Center Utah. You have a team that you're inheriting with this partnership to carry this forward. And I'm humbled by this opportunity and your comments.
Well, thank you. And you're right. I see Lou everywhere. It's like I can't turn around without running into Lou somewhere.
Yeah, he's in the middle of everything going on. He's the Forrest Gump. I think Deseret News said that he's the Forrest Gump of business. He just ends up in the middle of really the most dynamic economic development projects of our time. And this will be no different. I wish you were here this morning, but he's making some major moves that will impact our market this morning in our office.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for the update and presentation. We're excited for the progress and momentum that we have, and look forward for you coming back and announcing some really cool tenants. So thanks again.
Thank you all.
All right. Well, I do believe Christopher Merritt has joined us. So if you want to come up, I gave a little bit of a teaser a few minutes ago, but we're excited to have Christopher here. We're going to be talking about the Chapel by the Wayside, and members of the historical preservation community have come to the point and recommended that the Land Authority apply to list the chapel on the National Register of Historic Places. So before asking the board to consider that recommendation, we thought it would be helpful for the board to get a primer on the process for and the implications of listing a facility on the National Register. So we have Christopher Merritt here. He's the director of the State Historic Preservation Office, and he'll provide an overview on the National Register listing. Go ahead, Christopher. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for having me this morning. As Jordan mentioned, my name is Chris Merritt. I'm the State Historic Preservation Officer for the great state of Utah. I work in the Department of Cultural and Community Engagement, and I've been working very closely with Director Matheson for many years and Mike over at DFCM on the prison development project. And I know that a group of citizens have wanted to list the prison chapel. And I want to talk through what the National Register is and is not. Our office administers the National Register of Historic Places program for the National Park Service. This law goes back to 1966 with the National Historic Preservation Act, which created not only the federal laws to protect cultural resources, but the National Register as well as a way to assess those places that are significant in our national, regional, or local history. As such, our office is actually kind of an interesting critter in state government. We get a little bit of federal funds to administer federal programs, and the National Register is one of those many programs. Now, typically, before I go into it, I get 2 phone calls. The first phone call is from a concerned member of the public who wants to list something on the National Register so it won't be demolished, and so they could prevent something from being removed. The second phone call is someone saying, I just bought a historic home and I want to get it off the register so I can demolish it. The National Register doesn't do either of those things. It is meant at its onset to be an honorific designation recognizing and honoring the history of that place. And so whether that's a historic building, an archaeological site, I'm an archaeologist by training, a bridge, or even a neighborhood such as Liberty Wells or the Marmalade District just down the hill from the Capitol. It's meant in 1966 to be an incentive for people to recognize the history of their local community and to find ways to preserve it. The federal designation comes with no strings attached. You can list something on the National Register one day and demolish it the next. I want to use a case study that's been very much all over the local news lately, the 5th Ward in downtown Salt Lake City. That's listed on the National Register, but that is not why it's such a conflagration of people and upset. It was because it was on the local register that was designated by Salt Lake City itself. At the local level is where restrictions can be added to properties, and those are 2 different processes. And so the National Register by itself comes with no strings attached. Now, as Director Matheson and I worked through the very complex decommissioning of the historic prison, we went through a process. And I'm going to get you to the prison chapel, but walk with me for a minute. We looked at the site as a whole. The prison itself is a very important piece of our state's history, one of the last in the entire country that used a certain type of, jail door mechanism. The structures were, 70 years old. And so the point hired a consultant to review the significance of each of the buildings as associated with that whole prison complex. in the eyes of the law, so we have a federal law, but then the state in 1971 passed a similar state law that says a state agency or an agency of the state has to take into account their actions on those things that are eligible for or listed on the National Register. It's both categories. And so the prison chapel at that point was actually designated as eligible for the National Register because of its very unique history, along with many of the other buildings on that prison campus because of its significance. But as you can tell, the rest of the prison is gone. So that eligibility did not stop the development. It merely meant that we needed to appropriately document and preserve the memory of those buildings and the history that they imbue for the next generation. But to find ways, and Director Matheson and I had many conversations of like, well, could components of the prison be reused as housing or officing? And as you guys worked through your public process, we were communicating on how to imagine reuse of the historic fabric of the prison into a new generation and into a new century. And so after all those decisions, we mitigated the loss of the majority of the prison site, but through public outcry and also interest and the Point Commission's interest, the prison chapel was saved. I think it's a very important piece of the prison to preserve because it's not really celebrating incarceration. It is celebrating rehabilitation. And I think that's something that we can say, if you want to do touchy-feely, it is the whole point of the Point of the Mountain Commission, right? To turn a place of incarceration and sometimes pain into a place of the next century's history and the next century's economic development and vitality in our valley. So let's talk about the National Register and its implications for this property. As I've mentioned, it's honorific, meaning that this is a recognition of the unique history of the prison chapel. It's the only one of its kind in the state that was built by the local prisoners by themselves to have a place of faith and a place that they could go worship. And as such, it's regionally significant for that story. And when we see the new redevelopment, and I saw the marketing plan, I think this is a piece of that unique heritage that this development will have that we can celebrate, but it won't restrict. The local community who wants to list it, it is to honor that history. So if it gets listed to the National Register, and I'll talk briefly about the process, there is really no extra string attached to what happens to that property. Unless, there's state or federal funding, then we need to take it into account what you're going to do to that property. We've discussed tax credits. If this chapel could be reused for an income producing purpose, there's a potential of a federal tax credit. If there's a residential function, there's a state tax credit for promoting preservation. So if it goes those routes, then we would work with a developer to make sure that the history of that place is preserved and the work is done appropriately. But if it's outside those lanes, the building can be reused, it can be remodeled. Our office can provide technical assistance to whoever operates that facility long-term to ensure that history is recognized. Now, as far as the process, usually the trick is you have to pay somebody to list a property on the National Register. A lot of private landowners want their homes listed to get incentives, to get those tax credits, and some want their history recognized. But it sounds like there's interest from the local community to list it on your behalf, which is a fairly novel thing. That's a good thing because you're not having to pay for that listing. So a nomination would be created. It would be reviewed by our office. We have a designated National Register coordinator who would review it. It would go to our National Register Review Committee for approval, and then we would send it to the keeper of the National Register in DC, who would then have the final say whether it's listed or not listable. We feel strongly that it does have that potential because of that unique history. You can have the prison chapel story even without the prison there anymore. And that's kind of a critical aspect of when we look at the National Register. It's really hard, and I do understand a lot of folks that have hesitation because they hear a federal designation in 2024 and they get nervous. And they think there's a lot of things that come with that. But I'm here to tell you that the threat isn't there of restriction on this property. It's meant to help better manage the property. It would give you a lot of information on the history, but also the mechanics and the fabric and the windows and everything that if you wanted to preserve this place long-term in a historic way, you would have that information at hand. We have over 1,400 individually listed buildings and structures on the National Register in Utah. And we have another about 13,000 in local historic districts. So Liberty Wells Historic District, Marmalade, Capitol Hill, all of these are nationally listed but don't come with that local restriction. And so we try very carefully to keep the national designation separate from the local designation, because only at the local level do you get restrictions like we see in the conversation of the 5th Ward Meeting House. You know, we do a lot of reviews every year. We do 2 to 3 historic districts every quarter of people wanting to celebrate their local neighborhood's history. And as I think we look forward into the marketing plan, I think preserving the chapel was a fantastic decision. And now this is just a way to recognize that history going forward. So with that, I didn't bring a lot of visuals. You just get to look at me this morning. But I'm happy to address any questions in regards to the nomination and the listing.
Great. Thank you, Director Merritt. Appreciate that presentation. We'll go to the board for any questions, discussion, or motions. Maybe if I could start, I understand the idea that there's nothing from a federal perspective that would put requirements on something that has been registered. Is there anything where we've tied either in our state code or in these local municipal codes where just the aspect of it being on the national registry now has subjected it to local requirements or state requirements? Does that question make sense?
It makes sense. I'm unaware because I believe it's within the city limits of Draper. So the question would be, is there anything on Draper's municipal ordinances that would designate this as a historic site? The listing itself would not move it directly in the city code, right? The city would have to do a process internally to designate it as a local landmark. But I don't know if Draper City has an ordinance that has any more restrictions. When it comes to building code, no, there's no differences between listing or not. It's still an existing building that would go through building code review. So as far as I'm understanding, the designation it has already falls under the process laws for state and feds. And then we would just have to look at what Draper City has in regards to if there's a local landmark then applied to the chapel, if that would then restrict.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yep, that does. That answers my question. Thank you. Mayor Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm wondering from start to finish, if an application were made to put this chapel on the National Registry, can you give us a time frame how long that process might take before we learn the outcome?
Sure. I'm going to start out with it's a federal process, so it does take longer. But if we had a nomination drafted, which depends on how quality of the writer and how quickly they can do the research. If we had a draft in the next month or two, we could probably get it reviewed in our fall meeting, which is September, October. And then if it gets approved by our board, it goes to the National Register in DC, and then they have 45 days to then review and issue a comment. So it could be formally listed on the National Register as early as probably December, January, if we had a nomination draft in hand.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back to you, but when you're ready for a motion, I would like to make one.
Okay, let's see if there's any other questions from the committee. Not seeing any. We'll go back to Mayor Ramsey.
Thank you. This was super informative about the process and what it does and does not mean. And I'm not sure I was fully aware of the difference between a national registry recognition and the honor that is versus some of the obligations at a state or a local level. So this was helpful. As a board, we have proudly decided to preserve this chapel for many of the reasons that Mr. Merritt stated. Because of what it stands for, we've gone over this quite a bit. We've spent a lot of time with the public, listening to the public, touring the chapel, and really thinking about our past and the beautiful parts of this past. That this chapel was a light in a place that was otherwise dark at times. And so for that reason, I would like to make a motion that we proceed with working with stakeholders who have offered to make a nomination for this process to be gone forward, and to work with them toward trying to get this listed on the National Registry, this chapel. I'd like to see that happen. That's my motion.
Thank you, Mayor Ramsey. Is there a second to that motion? Senator Stevenson with a second. So the motion is that we work with those individuals to help prepare an application to list the Chapel by the Wayside on the National Register of Historic Places. Let's go open it up to discussion on that motion. Seeing, oh, Jeff, go ahead, Jeff. Or Commissioner.
Yep, thank you. So just a question on the motion then. Is the motion to prepare an application, but then will be the subsequent decision of whether to submit it, or is the motion to submit an application?
My motion is to submit an application, but my understanding is that we've got some very passionate and involved and well-informed folks that would like to work with the Point to actually submit the nomination on our behalf. So my motion is that we work with them to submit a nomination.
Let me just go back to Director Merritt on this. So what's the Point's role in that submission process? Do we need to approve the application, or if someone's submitting on our behalf, what role does the board play?
Yeah, the board should approve submitting that nomination to us because we want the landowner's permission to move forward on the nomination. So typically, you know, if somebody's applying for the property owner, there's sort of a tacit approval already. But I think given this process, I would love to have the board's approval to submit it formally for our review, just so the paper trail is there, that we're all on the same page, that this is what the commission would like to move forward with.
Okay. So then, Mayor Ramsey, if I could just restate that to make sure it is in alignment with what you're asking here. Your motion is that we work with preparing that application, but also that the board is approving or supportive of that application. Is that correct?
100%. Yes, thank you.
Great. Any further discussion of that motion? All right, seeing none, I'll place the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we'll rule that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, we'll go back to item 7 on our agenda. And we talked a little bit about this, but we'll welcome Dr. Rick Robbins to the presenter area there, and anyone else that you'd like to invite with you. As we mentioned, we have been looking at ways that we can continue to innovate, especially in terms of education and opportunities that will be offered at the Point. And as part of that, we've worked closely with the Canyon School District to talk about possibilities. And we've invited Dr. Rick Robbins, who's the superintendent of the Canyon School District, to share some emerging visions for secondary education at the Point. So with that, the time is yours.
Thank you, Representative Tusher. We've got a folder for you. We're passing out, just has some of our presentation on there for you. First off, just want to express how excited we are to be here with you today and share a few of our thoughts. And I want to express my appreciation to Alan and everybody that works with the Point Project. This has been a culmination of a couple of years that we've been talking. Also just want to recognize some of our staff and administrations here, as well as 2 of our board members, Amanda Oakes and Nancy Teeny, are here with us too. So we're excited to have them. So just kind of to lay some groundwork here before we get into this, I just want to make it clear, this is very conceptual. Our board has not made any decisions. So this is at a very high level, but thinking about the future and just some of the promises and things that align with your vision at the Point and what we do in Canyons. We're thrilled to be the district that is in that area and covers that space. And we know that we can deliver a world-class experience for our students, as you mentioned, Representative. So the first thing that I'd like to say is just talk a little bit about our why. And you can see our first slide deck here. Let's go on to the next one, Kirsten. Oh yeah, we're going to start out with a little short video to introduce. Sound.
Yeah, maybe what you could just do is put the microphone up to your speaker, and then I think we'll be able to hear it that way. So if you just want to.
Where students learn to think, create, and lead like entrepreneurs. This proposed new high school, which we call where education meets industry, a school where students collaborate with industry professionals to tackle today's challenges, where students learn to think, create, and lead like entrepreneurs. This proposed new high school, which we call The Point, is where students work with elite teachers and professional mentors to solve real-world problems using the tools of industry. Since our inception, the mission of Canyon School District has been to prepare students for college and careers. In today's fast-changing world, this increasingly means instilling within students the character and skills that will equip them to not only inherit, but shape a future we can scarcely imagine. It means developing more than just career-focused graduates, but explorers and inventors. At The Point, students, whether they're interested in robotics, environmental science, or another high-demand field, immerse themselves in hands-on learning to gain the practical skills that will set them apart. More than a diploma, students can earn college credits and industry certifications and will graduate with a professional portfolio. The Point is not just a school. It's a place where ideas converge, a place with the academic rigor of Harvard, the discipline and relevance of West Point, and the creativity of Disney, where anything is possible. At The Point, we're not just preparing students for the future, we're shaping it. We're preparing students to change the world.
Thanks to our communications team for pulling that together. That really gets me fired up. That's exciting. So, you think about our mission and vision in education and specifically in Canyons, our commitment to college and career readiness has always remained the same. But I don't think, at least in my career over the 28 years I've been in education, that we've ever really had this type of opportunity in front of us to really align college and career readiness with this changing environment. And you can see just some of the points that are made there. We know that the economy is changing rapidly. We know that industries' needs and demands are changing by the day. And so there's lots of ways to provide programming for students. One of the things that I think really sets this apart and makes this unique is really adopting a leadership strand into this. If you look at it in military terms, we want students to maybe come in as privates, leave as officers. That these are students that are not just prepared for the workforce, but they can go on to a 4-year college degree and ultimately stay in Utah. And we know that workforce development is a big part of your vision. And so really aligning to those core values to make sure that our students have this world-class experience and want to stay and remain in Utah and continue to contribute to this great state. It's going to be tough for me to narrate without the slide deck. So that's a little bit about our why. Over the past 2.5+ years, our district's really undertaken developing our strategic vision. The core tenets in the district have always remained the same, but we know coming out of the pandemic that we really needed to look at the future and what are some things that maybe we needed to change. And so we started to develop kind of this plan about thinking about the future and really reimagining what this might be. And, we really wanted to take a look at what's happening around the country to see what best practice really is. And so I think that's important for you all to know that this presentation and some of these concepts that we've developed are really informed by a lot of work by our board and our administration going out and looking at the best. We visited Loudoun County Academies in Virginia, Kirkland Ranch Innovation Center in Florida, Academy High School in Texas, Blue Valley Caps in Kansas, as well as some great programs right here in Utah, our Career Tech High School in Washington County, as well as Catalyst Center in Davis. And so all of these emerging ideas have really been coalesced into our thinking as we kind of think forward, and really embedded as a foundation to these principles. You can see there that we really want this to be interdisciplinary. This experience will not be a traditional comprehensive high school. It would likely not have your traditional sports and some activities, but it would be very industry focused and woven tightly into that relationship. So very interdisciplinary, hands-on, personalized, competency-based, so very skills-oriented and future-focused. So thinking about the what and the how, this is just some ideas that we've been thinking about of what this might look like. Again, we've not made any decisions exactly about what the structure. Our first priority, obviously, is to serve the students in Canyon School District, but it would potentially have the ability to be a charter, and that might be an exciting partnership that we develop with the state or with you. We kind of see this in two tracks, and as you look at those programs around the country, some are more singular in their approach than others and a little more restrictive. We really want this to be both, which I really believe this can be done. So the first track would be your accredited diploma-bearing track. This would be 4 years, and it would be very industry-aligned with curriculum. So we would have industry specialists working side by side with teachers. In fact, many of our teachers would probably and likely come from industry to develop this curriculum. And we've seen this in a few of these models outside the state of Utah that are very effective. And then through that, we really want to follow, if you're familiar with the hero's journey, we really want to build students in a way that it's almost an apprenticeship, that when they get to us, they come in, they're assigned a mentor in industry as well as on the education side that really helps to guide them through this process as they move toward graduation. So that would be a 4-year track, and that would culminate with a capstone project as well as a professional portfolio. So if we're really thinking about what competency means, it really needs to be demonstrated in a way that students can show artifacts from their learning, right? And what I see at the point is this really being an opportunity to be hands-on. We want our students out there solving real-world problems with industry side by side, not just sitting in rows, in a regular classroom setting. And then that would also culminate with a final capstone project for graduation, so that we really can ensure that students are competent and have the skills either to go out into the workforce or to go on to a college 4-year track. The second track at the point would likely be a program in. So you can see there, we would allow students, if they wanted to attend their regular high school and then program in and work on a credential or even develop their own professional portfolio, we would allow them to do that. We really are excited about the idea that students would be able to stay at their traditional high school. Maybe they're involved in some of these extracurricular activities that they really like, or they like programs that are offered, but they still want to do something at the point that would allow them to get a credential. And, that's the ultimate goal, is to get our students coming out of this program, college and career ready, through these two tracks. The lens that we're looking at this through, you can see there, we're calling it 3 promises, but really embedded at the heart and the foundation of our plan would be academic rigor and relevance. And we talked a little bit about what that might look like. In the traditional school setting, they would still be subject to regular state and federal testing and whatnot, and the things that assessments and things that we need to do. Secondly, though, this would be embedded would be industry skills, right? And this is another piece that really makes this unique. Is it a heavy lift? Yes. Have we seen it done? Yes. And many of these aspects of this integration already occur in some of our programs. We have a marvelous CTEC on 90th South that's an amazing program, but it doesn't have the depth and the reach that this could potentially have. And the building is getting older, and so it's, there's some things there that we could really improve on. part of this industry embedded skills would also be to create an industry advisory board. We've seen this in many of the programs around the country, that industry really does play a part, and it's more of a hand-in-hand process of advising and developing curriculum with educators so that we're meeting state core standards and still moving along a path toward graduation, but we're embedding these skills. So it'd be very closely woven. And then finally, this leadership piece that we also think really makes this unique, and that's these life skills, these durable dispositions around leadership, entrepreneurship, problem solving, design thinking, collaboration, communication. As I said, I think it's important that our students are developed into leaders in the field, not just accessing credit and moving through the system. So again, this isn't just another aspect, just again, thinking big about what it might look like. I think Alan actually suggested in our last meeting that this reminded him of Hogwarts. So that's kind of exciting. But, you know, thinking about what really connects students to each other and to their leaders and their teachers is community, right? And so developing focus areas that we're calling our houses. And these, again, are very high level. We want to work with you and with industry to make sure that all of these aspects are in the plan so that we're meeting our state and our country and our world's needs. But we feel like developing houses really allows for that community. It also really makes it sustainable and builds continuity into the system so that when our students come to our campus day one, that is in place and they have the mentoring and the leadership skills to really help them advance. So you can kind of see some of the ideas that we've put there. Many of these programs, by the way, we already offer in Canyon School District. So we're definitely looking to expand on that and really align with your vision as well. And then finally, we've had an architect work with us, and all the designs that you see are really a culmination, again, of all these ideas from these different programs around the country. One really critical aspect to this programming, and you can, I want to highlight this in these architectural floor plans here, is this commons staircase area. So one of the things that these programs offer that we would really like to emulate is this showcase opportunity. And this really is an opportunity for students, either monthly or quarterly or whatnot, but this opportunity to really showcase their prototypes, but at the same time in this really social environment network with industry leaders, so that it's an opportunity for all of our industry really to recruit and to see all the great work that our students are doing. And we've had multiple private vendors and industry out there ask us about this and want to partner with us to be involved in this, where they have this opportunity to really see firsthand the talent that exists in Utah and in our district. And this really gives our students that space to do just that, to network, to showcase, to work with each other, as well as industry leaders that are interested in recruiting talent in Utah. And as I talk to our industry leaders, as many of you are, I get more and more the sense that they're interested in pushing down into our high schools to really be part of that process. I think traditionally it's always kind of been, well, we wait, and then in high school that ends, and then we really start that process in college or at the university level, or post high school. But I see that culture really shifting, which is really exciting for all of us. So one of the aspects to the architecture you can see there is lots of space for labs, this ability, makerspace. You know, this is really a STEAM model. So we have the ability for students to collaborate, to share ideas, and then to really build out in a project-based learning atmosphere. And so this facility alone, the one that we've kind of been looking at, this is about 120,000 square feet. Our current CTEC footprint's about 60,000 square feet. So you can imagine, how much bigger that actually is. But considering the space and what we're looking at, we'd really like to get at least, upwards of 1,500 to 1,800 kids on campus daily, either in the traditional track or through programming on our site. Okay, that's our final slide and open for questions. Thank you again so much for having us. This is really a long time coming and very exciting to be here and visit with you.
Awesome. Thank you for that great presentation. I know we've got a number of comments and questions. Let's start with Senator Stevenson.
I get paid to ask questions just like this. I'm going to ask. This is expensive property, probably more so than most of the schools we build in the state of Utah. And then you've used the two different, of course, charter schools are public schools, but they're paid for in an entirely different way. So there's either we build a private charter school or a charter school, it's a public school that's financed usually with private money and built, or it's money that's goes through the public process and the construction is handled in that direction. That's the first part of my question. But the second part is that we do have hybrids around the state where we have actually charter schools meeting in public and on public places. But my question is more along the lines is, this is not going to be the least expensive place in the state of Utah to build a building, I don't think. We hope not. We really do want to make it a showcase. I love the concept. I love what you're doing. I was thinking we've come a long ways in 15 years in the public accepting the charter school concept. And I think we've improved our education by that happening. But my question with this is that as you put this together, is this a public where we need to be moving state dollars or tax dollars like we do now into building a project like this? Or is this a project that would be built by the open enterprise system and then occupied and ran as a charter school with the WPU going back to the management of the school?
Yeah, that's an excellent question and great point. I said to Alan in our last meeting, if you can give us 20 or 30 acres and 50 million, we'll make it happen.
Was my fear. That's the reason I asked this question.
Well, no, obviously this scope of work would require, a sizable footprint, right, to do this. I feel like what we've delivered in Canyon School District and our vision and our commitment to excellence, the great voters and constituents in our district, really from the leadership of our board ever since Canyons was created, have been committed to making sure that we have the best schools for our students. So I think all the above. I think I don't want to speak for our board. I would certainly be open to some type of joint venture or partnership in this. I think if our goal is to serve all of the students in Utah and make this a broader scope of work, that it would be more of a joint venture. It would be very difficult for us to carry a bond on our own of that magnitude. But I think a partnership would be amazing. And, we recognize the value of property and the expense to do this. I really believe in my heart of hearts, this is an opportunity that will only come maybe once in a lifetime to really reconfigure and repurpose and reimagine a space that I think aligns, with your vision. And I'm biased, right, because I'm a superintendent and I believe in our education system, but our greatest resource and the driver of our economy is our children, will be our children. So whatever we do to invest in that.
I could just follow up just for a second. Yeah, my reason for asking that is that I go back to I chaired the prison relocation board back in the hinterland, wherever that was. And there's always been this question that was asked is, what do you do with the property? And part of that was we had it appraised and we looked at a sale right on the upfront side very quickly. And it just seemed like that was not where this you know, it probably would have been, we would have been starting to construct homes out there right now. And it just seemed like that this property is worth a lot more than that. I love your vision and I love the concept that you're coming up with here. But part of where I'm coming from is we've made a commitment to the taxpayer of the state of Utah. And we've had a lot of discussions on this board about that. And we feel like that this property would eventually needs to give a return back to the taxpayer. I think this can be done. I think, and I don't think you disrupt it, but I think it should be watched carefully what you do and how you go about this. Gorgeous building, love the concept, love what you're doing and the talk of education. And as one who's had 1 foot in charter school and 1 foot in traditional public education, I kind of really like the concept of the partnership thing.
Well,
I think it's amazing.
No, thank you. You know, I think part of the equation and thought here too is we talk a lot about innovation, right? And about, you know, disrupting maybe more of a traditional mindset and model. And I think this really affords us that great opportunity. So it definitely would be a substantial investment by all, but I think one that we would look back on years from now at the point and be very proud of. So.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Stenquist.
Thanks for the presentation today. And I'm a longtime fan and supporter of Canyon School District and the work that you all do there, having been involved from the inception. And the presentation and the concept around this school, I think is really fascinating and forward thinking. So my question is more along the lines of, as the point develops, and there are going to be residential components to that as well, and hopefully we have a mix of housing stock that would have a variety of occupants, you know, small families to even larger families, and hopefully, you know, housing units where people could stay there long term. It would just be for young families moving in and out, but maybe long term. For residents that would be living in this area and have children at various ages, would you anticipate them then that they would attend other schools outside of this area, or are you anticipating other schools within the point development to service, say, elementary, middle school kids as well?
Yeah, sorry, excuse me. First, thank you, Representative, for all your service and just your collaboration with Canyons. And you definitely are a very familiar face to us, and we appreciate all that you do. To your question, I think that's something we need to think about, right? I know the pressures that are on you when it comes to housing and providing places for people to live. I think as that evolves, we would need to develop that process, right? I mean, this is a high school. The district does have some assets in West Draper that have been set aside potentially for an elementary school. Just me speaking, not for our board, but if you all chose to do this as part of this process, to think about, you know, what those services might look like, I would love to see an aligned K-12 model that would feed into a middle school and possibly the Point High School. That would start right out in preschool and kindergarten, that would really get our students involved in STEAM embedded principles right from the beginning as they go on. So setting aside property for that is something that you might think about. We're obviously processing that too, about what that might look like if, depending on how many housing units end up there and how many students, you know, will serve. So I know that's kind of a general answer, but it definitely is on our radar. We know that it's our responsibility to provide an education to those kids that will live there, and you know, we would want to partner with you to try to develop, you know, that space in whatever ways that we can.
Okay, and I think that certainly that could be a discussion as future phases are brought in, since we're so focused right now on phase one. That may not have that same level of residential component as well.
Yeah, you know, to that point, we haven't seen the necessary growth at this point to build the elementary school that is, in the property that is already one of our assets. But we certainly are prepared for that, if and when that comes. And I think this project is going to be part of that discussion. So again, just for your thinking as we process through this, I think aligning the vision and the direction that our schools in that area, it not only aligns with our vision and our strategic mission and vision, but also aligns to what the values and principles are at the point. I think that would be key in really collaborating as we go forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Commissioner Landward.
Thank you. And thank you, Superintendent. So if it's okay, Chair, I just have two questions. Thank you. First question, can you give me an idea of conversations, if you've had any, with Jefferson Moss and the work that we're doing already with the innovation work?
Yes. Representative Moss has been with us in these meetings with the district and with Alan right from the start, actually. So we've been collaborating with him almost 2 years plus. And I don't want to speak for him. At our last meeting, he seemed very excited about the direction with this. We know that there's a lot of details to be worked out between Convergence Center and higher ed and our platform. We definitely don't want to be redundant and trying to do some of the same things. My goal would be, and our goal would be that, one builds on the other, right? That there's a synergy, that we work together so that it's not redundant, and it just really in the end guarantees and ensures that our students have the experience that you all want and that we all want, and that we can deliver on that promise. So yeah, he's been very closely involved in our work.
Okay, thank you. And then you've started touching on the second part of my question, and to give a little context with this, you mentioned what we were doing in Davis County and what we're doing in Washington County with some of the high schools that are career and tech focused. And we obviously love that model. I think I bring this up because the state has made tremendous investments in our technical colleges. And I'm excited to see finally some real momentum, in particular at Salt Lake Community College with their technical college side. They renamed it Salt Lake Technical College, and Salt Lake Tech for short. They're starting to reorganize and invest into their technical college options, which I think has been a lost opportunity for many years, and which is why I think you see some school districts having to step up on their own and build out some technical college offerings. What I would like to see as a system of higher education is better collaboration. I'm looking at the list of credentials or business and industry areas that you have listed, and I'm seeing maybe 80% of those are areas that we've developed technical certificates around. And when I hear you talking about industry advisory councils, that's the same model that our technical colleges use, where the industries are coming in and developing the curriculum and developing the certificates. And so I'm curious to know, in your view and your vision of this high school, what do you see as a kind of partnership, for example, a partnership with Salt Lake Community College, where you're sharing instructors and you're sharing advisory councils? And when you talk about issuing credentials, what do you have in mind in terms of the high school issuing credentials? Is that a partnership with the technical college issuing credentials? And setting aside from conversations around concurrent enrollment, for example, for more of the degree track. But I'm really curious about the technical college track and those technical certificates.
Yeah, and we don't want to be a college, right? I think the difference is that I don't know that we've ever really pushed down to this level where our high school students would have this opportunity. One of the aspects to this that I think is exciting when you think about competency, we've been talking about potentially our students having the ability to block their credits in a way that they can accelerate as fast or slow as they need. In that same breath, they have the ability to earn some of these credentials that we already offer in our high school. So I want to be aligned with higher ed. Definitely, we don't want to get sideways with our higher ed partners. It's been interesting since we've really kind of started this process. More and more of our higher ed partners have reached out to me to say, hey, let's meet, let's talk about what that articulation might look like. So I'm excited for that conversation. There's still a lot, thinking about as I pointed out, some of the courses and the careers that are pathways that are already there. We already offer some of that, but what that looks like in partnership with higher ed and industry, I need to be more informed about that, because you're right, that has been held more at a technical college level and at the university level. But we see a play in that, right? That as industry wants to recruit high school kids, what can we do to support that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we share your vision in terms of wanting to push down further into high school. And we see so many opportunities for pathways that lead to the type of credentials where a student graduating from high school has a diploma and a certificate in something that's employable. We think that's a great opportunity.
One, and I just mentioned to this group, one data point that really plays with us that has a lot of influence. When we look at students across the state, and this is not just in Canyons in particular, but if students take more than 2 courses in a pathway, right, toward a specific skill or career, if they take 2, just 2, then they're considered concentrators. The graduation rate is near 97%, and that crosses all populations. It doesn't matter their socioeconomic status. It doesn't matter if they're multilingual. It doesn't matter if they have disabilities. And if that's not enough, if that's not a strong enough data point to really compel us to articulate this plan in a way to align with industry, I've mentioned our team, I think it will be such a difference maker that if all of us really buy into this vision that you're talking about, that our graduation rate in Utah could approach 100%. And I know that's shooting for the stars, but we're within reach, and this really could close the gap.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we're seeing similar data even with our graduation rates, and see a lot of opportunity in particular with students having the ability to earn college credit. You know, with our technical colleges, we've shifted over to a credit based instead of hour based, in particular because we want to start creating these kind of opportunities that are similar to what we've seen in concurrent enrollment, but on the technical certificate side. And so I'm excited for the opportunity to partner with you, even outside of this vision that you have for the point and with all school districts. But I appreciate that you're working with Representative Moss, and I'd be very interested to see how creative we could be, and even what we already have funding in our building, Convergence Hall, you know, how we can build on top of that, and also possible partnerships. You know, we have a campus in Harriman with Salt Lake Community College, but you know, something similar here. I think that there's some real opportunities. But I agree with you, as you said, I don't want to see redundancies in terms of the resources that we already have deployed in the technical college system that we have right now, and how we can better utilize that in the school districts. I think is a responsibility that we have in higher ed to do better in coordinating with you, because we see this need and this desire from the school districts to want to have more of an opportunity in this area.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner. We just to finalize my thoughts on that, I think, at least in my career, I don't know that we've ever really had the opportunity to develop a true ecosystem that does what you're talking about. And I think this really affords us that chance.
I do too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Mrs. Cooper.
Hi, thank you. I was just gonna say, I think you guys, you're typically wanting like 30 acres for a high school, and clearly, my family's big into sports, and I think green space is important, and we don't have 3 million citizens in Utah that want to see all high rises here and no green space. But if it ends up being cost prohibitive to have fields and all that acreage, would you consider doing something like a tighter footprint, going more floors up, and then maybe having those students like spend half their high school days at a different high school and then come over, like how in Lone Peak, some of the kids leave to go to MTech and they do half their day at MTech, so that maybe we could still have artificial intelligence being learned and innovation and certificates, but like their sports are maybe done at a different, are you willing to do some type of joint venture like that?
Yeah, so part of that second track is programming in, right? So just for example, students that attend Corner Canyon High or Alta High or Jordan High, they would be able to remain enrolled at their comprehensive high school program in, maybe it's part day, half day, every other day. And let me just say, I'm that kid too, right? Like I'm a former college athlete, sports, really paved the way for my life and my career. And so that's very close to my heart. And this is a little bit different in the vision for what we're asking, but I think one of the things that we've seen around the country is many districts have been prohibitive in basically saying, if you come to this campus, you can't program in. You're either all in or you stay at your school. And why not dream big? Why not make this happen where students can do just what you're talking about? You can program in, stay at your high school, participate in all the activities that you want. But if you want to seek a credential or a certificate at the point, you can do that. As well as if you choose to enroll in a 4-year track at the point, you can do that, right? So it really gives our students choice in what they, want to accomplish.
That would be amazing, because then I think it would be potential, you could do it at a smaller footprint. And if, 17-year-old plan A is to play Major League Baseball, but plan B is learn how to fly drones, then we can help them accomplish both.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Mayor Ramsey.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Robbins. Thanks for being here, and members of the Canyons board and staff who are there. I'm just going to put it out there. I would love to see this idea, this concept that you've presented, come to pass, and I'd love to see it be a public district school. I love what you've done, and I think it's this type of innovation that we need to embrace and be bold enough to move toward in our public district schools. I don't think programs like this should be for schools that are not public district schools and nobody else can really access it, that it's not something we can make happen due to a variety of constraints with our public district schools. I think if we build on the conversation we had earlier with Patrick and Brandon Fugel about bringing world-class partners in, we know that the quality of the schools in the area is a key factor in whether or not people decide to bring their companies somewhere. And I believe the number is 90% of the students in the state of Utah across the state attend our public schools. And I don't know that we can think that that's going to look any different in this development than that's going to look anywhere else. So there's so many reasons why I think this could be a fantastic idea. I appreciate the technical programs that Canyons has, everything that you've just talked about, everything you talked about with April. There's a lot of good things coming on board. Appreciate that you're working with Jeff Moss on this. I think this has great potential and an opportunity to continue to elevate our career readiness for our students coming out of our public district schools. I think this would be awesome, and personally would love to see it be a public district school.
Thank you, Mayor Ramsey. We really appreciate your kind words. That means a lot, and we appreciate your support and friendship over the years as well. And you're doing a terrific job. So thank you for those kind words and encouragement.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Starks.
Good morning again. I just wanted to also speak in favor of this concept. And I think Senator Stevenson brings up some good points about land costs and best value. But I just kind of want to share the experience that I had. So many of you know that prior to working for the state, I spent 10 years in the Heber Valley, and I was the founding director of the Wasatch CAPS program, which is a very similar model, almost exactly the way that it's been described. Students would leave Wasatch High School and travel to the UVU Wasatch campus and have an off-campus experience with mentors, with real-world projects. We had advisory councils, and just to watch the growth in the students was such a phenomenal thing. And it really is the feeder into higher ed. A lot of these students are not the 4.0 students, but they're the students that work well with their hands or dream big. And so it was awesome to see them really kind of catch the vision of what they could do and who they could become. The other thing is the campus itself became a magnet to the business community. And so every day companies were there meeting with students, mentors were there. So I just think of the same concept at this point of the mountain. And in terms of what it could do to the Utah business community, I think that could really create a lot of synergy around the area. So just really excited about this possibility. Workforce is our biggest issue in the state. Our companies are begging for qualified workers. I think the deeper down we kind of program these types of things, the better, because students really grasp this. They love it. Then they go into college or a tech school or university and they really thrive. So really excited to hear that this is a possibility for this group. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Starks. We appreciate the comments.
Thank you, Director. Mayor Walker.
I couldn't let it go without recognizing our fine superintendent, Dr. Robbins. He's fantastic. And Canyons School District, I appreciate, they've been talking to me about this for a long time, about how it will integrate, how it could come together, what the vision could be for something unique and that would integrate into what we're trying to do at the point. So thank you guys for all your work and continuing to work and think and plan. It's outstanding. And like I say, we, living in the Canyons District and proud to know these folks. They do great work. They educate our kids very well, and they just do a great job. So thank you again for, hanging in there with us and trying to integrate and fit. I know there's so many unknown things yet still that as you look to the future, I appreciate you putting forth a roadmap of what might really be, sort of the future of education out there. And I agree with Mayor Ramsey. I think it should be a public district type education opportunity for all students. So again, thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Walker. Nothing but love and respect your way as well. We appreciate your partnership and vision and guidance and support and friendship over the years. So thank you for those comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe that concludes everyone who wants to speak. As you can tell, a lot of excitement, a lot of discussion here. I think we pretty much went around the horn to most of the board members who are participating today. So thank you for the presentation. Is there anything you'd like to summarize with?
We just appreciate the opportunity to be here. We're very humbled by this and just so appreciative of all the great work that you're all doing, and especially Alan and his willingness to reach out to us. I know how busy he is. It means a lot to all of us and all the constituents, and especially the kids that we serve, that were part of the conversation and consideration. So thank you.
Thank you for your work on this. Thanks for coming to our meeting today. We look forward to continuing to work together to figure out something that is innovative as you've laid out here. So thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that brings us to our last item on our agenda. That's a report from our Executive Director, Alan Matheson. So I'll just turn the time over to him.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think we've covered a lot of things that I was going to talk about, so I'll be quick. But I want to just add my thanks to Dr. Robbins, to his staff, to the board. Canyon School District has been wonderful to work with. You can hear that at the core, they're concerned about the students, and we are too. But beyond that, certainly as we think about attracting talent to this place, having great educational opportunities is going to be part of that. So we'll continue to work, but wanted to make sure that you as a board heard conceptually what's being discussed so that we can get into more detail and make something special happen. So thanks very much. Okay, just quickly, a few items. I think it's important for this board to know what's happening and get into some detail that we don't often get in some of the presentations. First of all, talk a little bit about infrastructure. So in the last few weeks, we've signed a loan agreement with the Division of Finance that allows us to start drawing on the infrastructure fund, the $165 million that the legislature put into that loan fund. So we'll be working on some of those first drawdowns at the right time. It outlines the payback process and timing, and really kind of opens the door for the funding of some of the infrastructure. We've broken ground on infrastructure. The gas lines are going in. If you've been by the site, you'll see that there's activity and more to come. We expect that this week we'll be able to release a bid package for a water tank that'll go in up by the Department of Corrections Administration building and serve this site long term. Working on the bid package for Porter Rockwell Boulevard, part of the North Loop Road, and associated infrastructure there that should go out in the next couple of months. Made some decisions on key road alignments that will facilitate transit and create some more development parcels that we think will be appealing Mentioned water, and water is a big issue here. And so we've had a number of conversations. And I just, on all of this, I have to thank Mike Ambre and DFCM, who have been just outstanding partners in helping to work through the details of getting this construction done. But with water, we've had a number of meetings with Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District, with Draper City, and we have a plan in place that will allow us to get the construction and fire flow water we need to get going on the site. And we're actively developing agreements that will take state water rights, give them to Jordan Valley Water. Jordan Valley Water will then have another agreement with Draper City on their service agreement. That water will be available to increase the amount that Draper gets, and then Draper will be able to contract with the Point to provide our water needs long-term. There are going to be issues over time, but I think we're in a position where we can get started with confidence that we're going to have enough for the foreseeable future. Transit, we've settled on kind of a plan for the Front Runner Station. That allows UDOT to start doing the environmental analysis for that project, starting the NEPA work. We've worked with UTA. They've kind of outlined the mode and the right-of-way for the light rail to go through the project, getting down into details even to the point where the curvature of the line is designed to minimize squeaking as it goes through. So we're getting into some of those details, and they're starting on a cost-benefit analysis. We need more dirt at the site. And UDOT has a building project on Bangerter, and they have dirt they need to get rid of. So we're working on an agreement where some of that fill dirt will come in from the Bangerter project, be deposited on our site, and then can be used throughout the site as we need to grade the project. So that's moving along. Of course, there will be protections in there to ensure that no hazardous materials and the soil, excuse me, the soil is clean. We talked a little bit, and you heard from Patrick about the phase 1 refinements that are going on, and they're pretty exciting, I think. And so that's well underway, working with Design Workshop on the River to Range Trail, and doing some of the detailed programming on that. Convergence Hall is moving along, and we've had this advisory group that's been sharing ideas on potential programming for the site. And it's everything from assembly areas to offices to lab space to dorm space for post-grad students and beyond. That programming is being refined, and we expect that within the next couple of months we'll be able to go out with a bid package for architects to actually design the building and have that done within this year. So that'll be exciting. It may be the first building, or certainly one of the first few buildings that we'll see come up on that site. At our last meeting, we talked about adding a director of land development to our staff, somebody that's well-versed in land development, can work with the development team, help evaluate proposed projects, et cetera. The posting for that position closed yesterday, and we've got about 60 applicants come in. It's a good group. Started looking through them last night, and I think there's some very capable people. And so we'll be working through that process. The hope is that in the next couple of days, we can do an initial cut, identify those that we would invite in for a first interview, probably do that in early to mid-May, and then do some final interviews. And just as a heads up, we may be asking some board members to volunteer to participate in that process because we think this will be an important decision. A couple more things real quick. And I think you heard a lot about this already, but we're working on the tenant attraction piece and coordinating the materials we're putting together with EDC Utah, with the Point Partners, and with this change in GOEO's role, working with them as well. So we're going to have coordinated materials that'll be ready for the ICSC conference later next month. And we'll be going to Select USA, which is an international conference that's hosted by the Department of Commerce to encourage foreign direct investment in the United States. So we're going to be joining a team that includes the World Trade Center, EDC Utah, GOEO, and some others, and see if we can make some contacts with some companies in other countries that are interested in investing. And then the final thing I'll mention is that we're trying to get the word out about what we're doing. We know this is a public project and that we need to inform the public about what's going on. So we typically have at least 2 presentations or media interviews a week, and we're continuing to do that. I think that's important. We appreciate X Factor, Muriel and her team, who have been outstanding in helping to arrange those. So that's the quick overview. I'd be happy to respond to any questions, but want you to know that things are happening, and it's because of the leadership that you're providing. It really makes a difference, and we appreciate the partners we're working with.
Thank you, Alan. Any discussion or questions for Director Matheson? Not seeing any. I'll just say we so appreciate the great work that you and your team are doing. It's grateful. You know, I get a weekly update on everything, and it's just amazing to know the amount of work that's going into this, the number of meetings that we have, the momentum that is going to pay huge dividends for this project moving forward. And I know that, Alan, you've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this, and really appreciate all the great work that you and your team are doing. So with that, I think we've had a great meeting today. We've had a number of really interesting topics. You can see we're making progress. Looking forward to the next meeting that we'll have the second week of May, that Tuesday at 9 a.m. So
It's going to be the 3rd week, right, in May? But we were going to move it in June.
yeah, you're right. Sorry, the 3rd week. Yeah, the 21st, it's on our agenda, the 21st of May, 9 a.m. Until we go to June being the 2nd week. So look forward to see everyone then. Until then, if we can get a motion to adjourn, Commissioner Landward makes that motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.